Tragedies are commonplace. All kinds of diseases are slipping.
New Wave Media takes no responsibility for the opinions or the statements made by the host or their guests. Statements or show topics are not the necessary belief of the radio station. Street 100 and Heat or Raise the Praise 100 Houston. It is not our intention to label, discriminate, or ignore anyone. This radio station takes no responsibility for the opinions of others on the airways.
Wake up! It's the Rich Living Morning Show with Bishop Richard Harper, lifting your spirit through gospel hits and conversations.
And we are back. It is 31 minutes past the hour of 8. I certainly hope you've enjoyed the great gospel music this morning. But, on the Rich Living Morning Show, it is great gospel music and inspiring conversation. We always like to engage in conversation with dynamic people. And, so far, you guys have always let me know that you've enjoyed the guests that we've had on our show. I have not received any hate mail or any Bishop, what on earth were you doing? And I know my guests this morning, you guys are really going to enjoy this conversation. I want you to go to Facebook Live. You can go on my personal page or the Rich Living Morning Show page. You can go on the page there, and we are live there, or the YouTube channel as well. You can just look for Bishop Richard Harper on the YouTube channel. This morning, our conversation is with Mr. Jarrell Rogers, who is a candidate for judge for Harris County Criminal Court at Law number 14, and currently serves as the chief prosecutor for the 180th District Court. He graduated from the Paul M. Hebert Law Center at Louisiana State University, and while there, helped to create the Street Law program at LSU, which aimed to educate young students about real-life legal situations likely to face them. Jarrell believes in presence in the community as he serves as a mentor in Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Houston, and is an usher and greeter at West End Church. As a forever public servant, Jarrell is looking to impact the community and make a difference by serving as judge for Harris County Criminal Court at Law number 14. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rich Living Morning Show, Mr. Jarrell Rogers. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Bishop Rich. Good morning, fam. It is so great to be here. I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here and excited just to tell people about me and the campaign, and just excited all around.
Yes, well, we are excited to have you, and more. Listen, I was more excited when I read that you're an usher and a greeter, because that's the first line of the law in a church.
Right? No, you're right. I mean, and my mom never would have let me go to church without being involved, right? So,
right,
that's a decision I made, as an adult when I came out here, that I wanted to keep it going, but it was rooted in me from birth. I was one of those type that, mama had us at Sunday school, then 9:30, regular service at 11 o'clock, pastor's anniversary at 2 o'clock, revival that night or something. So I was used to being in the church.
Hey, you were in it. So when you did all of that, you were definitely in the church. Well, we congratulate you on your campaign, and it seems like you're doing very, very well, having a very successful campaign. And I want you to have this opportunity just to share with the voters about you and about your campaign, and some of your beliefs and value systems, so that they'll know to go out and support Mr. Jarrell Rogers for this judge seat, for that seat on the bench. Your slogan has been fit for the bench, fit for the bench. Now, guys, I posted pictures so you all can see that Attorney Jarrell Rogers is definitely fit. But I want you to tell us what makes you fit for the bench.
All right. And so fit for the bench, I love that expression. It's something that I just came up with as I was getting ready for a judge. I was working out, and honestly, that's what it's about, right? It's about being physically fit, which anyone who knows me, I'm very much into fitness. I've done competitions, I've done amateur bodybuilding shows, I've even placed in those shows. And so physical fitness is a big part of me. But when I talk about being fit for the bench, I don't mean just physically, right? I mean also that I'm fit for the bench in the sense that I have the legal experience and the legal education for it. I've been practicing law for over 8 years now. I handle the most serious cases in the state of Texas that somebody can have. I also mean mentally fit, right? I mean just having that temperament in which you treat people when they come to court. They're not having the best of their days when they're there present in court. And so, I mean, that kind of fitness as well. And so fit for the bench just means all around fit for the bench in the physical sense, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be doing much good for anybody else. And taking care of yourself mentally, spiritually, the whole person, you have to be fit all around. And I felt that was something that I could bring to the bench. I feel like it was something that was lacking, and I know that I can improve on that.
Absolutely. And that's good. That's good, because we definitely need a person that has the mental fitness, the emotional fitness, as well as the spiritual fitness sitting on the bench. And right now, there's a great deal of emphasis, especially from the church community, about who's sitting on the bench. Now, I want to ask you, what's your focus? What are you focusing on as judge?
Yeah, so a big part of my focus, anyone who has seen me on the campaign trail know that anytime you see me out, I'm always emphasizing, I'm always stressing the community. Community, community, community. Is that simple. And the reason I'm doing that is because every day judges make decisions that impact the community. Is inherent in the job. It's just the nature of what judges do. And so it's simple for me. How can a judge make decisions about the community if they're not actually present and involved in the community? And I don't mean getting involved once you decide now that you want to run for office, now that it's campaign season. I mean a demonstrated history of being involved and wanting to be in the community. And so that's a big focus of my campaign, to bring County Criminal Court 14 to the community, to be active with it as opposed to responsive or passive. So I don't want to wait until some kind of tragedy happens and then the court wants to see, well, how can we make this better? How can we get involved? I want the court to be active, to be going forth in the community and hopefully prevent some of the things that we've seen. So that's my big emphasis, bringing the court to the community. It's the people's court.
What do you see in Court 14 that you want to change or transform, or I'm trying to find the best word, but where's the improvement that you're saying as judge? Where are the improvements needed with that court? If I could ask you a question.
That's what I'm here for. So there's a couple of things. So one, I would say, is the actual leadership of that particular judge. And so a big part of that judge is, and everyone tells candidates, you don't say your opponent's name. So I'll just say the current sitting judge. A big part of the issue I see there is that he touts his years and years and years of experience. What he sees as a strength is actually, in my opinion, is the issue with him, because he has these years more experience than me, and yet he's not elected among his peers, among the other judges, to be what they call the presiding judge, like the judge that kind of presides over everyone. You would typically think the person with the most experience, that they would be set up in a leadership role. You would think that they would use that leadership to then help mentor or bring along the younger judges or younger people. That's just the nature of mentorship and leadership, and that's not happening in that court. Additionally, there are other things that judges can do aside from their regular duties, for lack of better phrasing. So, for example, there are different programs set up that are targeted at getting help to the people in our community that need it most. I'm talking about sober court, so people with substance abuse issues. I'm talking about mental health court. I'm talking about veterans court. So this subset of people that we've identified who need extra help beyond just the regular things that we see in court. Judges have to take that upon them. You don't get anything extra for it. You just have to want to do that. And so again, this current judge, despite all his years of experience and things of that nature, he's not doing any of these extra things. And these are the extra things that benefit directly the community, and particularly a lot of times the most vulnerable people in our community, the people that need the most help. And so just being merely present, just filling a spot, being good isn't good enough when we can be great. And so I think County Criminal Court 14 can be great, but it needs a judge who is willing and wanting for it to be great. And so that's why I think it can improve upon in terms of that leadership, because if you look, for those of you in Harris County, if you look around Harris County, Christian Menifee, the county attorney, him and I started practicing law on the exact same day. Now, don't get me wrong, I've met him before, but like I don't know him like that or anything. But anyone who will tell you about the county attorney's job, I think for the most part, we'll agree that he's doing a pretty good job. And he's been practicing law for the same amount of time as I have. And so I know it's not about the number of years behind your name in terms of how long you've been doing this. Sometimes that is the problem, because you think you've been doing it a certain way, and this is the way we've always done it, so we're going to keep doing it that way. And that's the problem. It's a lack of innovation. It's a lack of leadership. And I know those are things that I can change.
That's great, and that's good to hear. And I've got a couple of questions that I think my listeners would really be interested in. Sometimes I was having this conversation last night with some other friends. It was in preparation, saying you were coming on the show, and one particular is in law enforcement, so he had a different perspective. And I said, we typically, especially those of us that are activists minded, we oftentimes we vilify the prosecutor. The prosecuting attorney, we have an urban audience. The prosecuting attorney is not always a friend in the hood. It's just like, hey, that's the one. And so especially when we see a prosecutor of color, we always have this, will this person be fair, or is this person playing the game with the other side? In your career, even as a prosecutor, how have you helped to improve the system or bring fairness, equity to, I can't think of the word. I've just lost my word there. To those that are accused of a particular crime, especially individuals of color.
Yeah. And so, and I'm sure this, politicians or candidates always love to say, I'm glad you asked that question, but I really am so happy you asked that question. I knew the day I decided to run back in May that was going to be something that I was going to have to answer and deal with. And I think it's fair. I think it's a fair question for people to ask, given American history. And so I'll say it like this. I've been told multiple times by attorneys, by defense attorneys, that their client just simply feel better because they saw that I was the person on the other side. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to end well or how it's going to end, good or bad, but they felt better knowing that someone who looked like them is on the other side. And so I think that shows that just the representation in and of itself matters, because it makes a huge difference to go into a courtroom and thinking you have a fair shot, as opposed to walking in and already feeling defeated when the judge doesn't look like you, the attorneys don't look like you, the court staff doesn't look like you. And so if you can walk into an environment where you see friendly faces, where you see familiar people, that automatically changes your initial outlook and disposition going into it, right? And so, of course, that's not just enough, just feeling that you're going to get a fair shake. Then you need to actually make sure that you do get a fair shake. And so I think what I could do for that, and what I have done, is that I can bring in that perspective. I'm a chief of the court. And so what that means as the chief is that I get to supervise junior or younger prosecutors. And so I get to tell them, that there are legitimate reasons why someone, a particular person of color, might not have pulled over immediately when they saw lights and sirens. That there are conversations that happen in Black households that you may not be familiar with, that are very real conversations, and there's no sign of criminal activity or criminal intent. It's just simply someone acting in accordance with the way they were raised in order to get home safely based on experiences, interactions. And so I think that showing that representation from all aspects matter, because long before I was a prosecutor, I was an African American man in America, right? I've been a prosecutor for 8 years, but I've been a Black man in America for 35 plus years. And so you don't leave those experiences behind just when you add letters behind your name or just when you get a title. And so the best way I could think about it as of late was like this. I said, we can't always wait until the patrol officer, Troy Finner, become police chief Troy Finner to then support and motivate them, right? Patrol Officer Finner had to go through some things in order to become the police chief of the Houston Police Department, right? And same thing with Vice President Kamala Harris. We just can't wait until Assistant District Attorney or Prosecutor Kamala Harris becomes Vice President Kamala Harris, and then to celebrate and applaud her, because she had to go through things along the way. And so you have to go through those things along the way. And I think you demonstrate who you are by your dealings with people every day. And so I always encourage people to talk to the people who dealt with me, talk with attorneys who have dealt with me before. And I think you'll see without question that I've always made sure that I'm treating people fairly and equitably, and making sure that that justice is upheld. And the way you do that is just by bringing in your own life experiences. So I think bringing in my experiences shows that. And I think, and one last thing, I know I'm rambling sometimes, but one last thing I would say.
You're okay.
Yeah. Because I know I got people from my hometown, Shreveport, shout out Shreveport, Louisiana, watching. But before I even came to Houston, we've heard all the stories, the tragic stories of different unarmed African American men being killed in the hands of law enforcement. But Shreveport, Louisiana, has its own story of a guy named Marquise Hudspeth. I remember I was in about middle school or high school, and he was killed by law enforcement. It was thought that he had a gun. It was a cell phone in his hand, and he was killed, captured on video and such. And so, you don't lose these experiences in these ordeals that you witness and go through just because you get to a certain place in life. And so I just know that having the experiences that I've had and being able to have the impact I've had as a prosecutor, I know I would be able to do the same thing as a judge, because I'm coming from a place of experience and not just speculation, from actual real life experience.
All great points, and I'm glad you brought in the perspective of your experience, that you bring that to the courtroom, and you brought that in your career, which leads me to this next question. Can you talk to us about the importance of participating in local elections? Usually we don't get excited until it's the presidential election. And this is a conversation we must have, particularly in the minority community, in the African-American community, because most of the times we sometimes don't show up until it's someone that we like or someone that looks like us. And so we miss city elections. People are like, what are these proposals? What are they voting for? I just press something. There's a lack of education about things that are on the ballot, or even who is on the ballot. We just go in and press buttons. Talk to us about that.
Or a lot of times even that there is a ballot right now, right? A big part of what I've been dealing with on the campaign trail is first letting people know that, hey, there is an election, that there are different things being elected upon, that judges in Harris County are voted upon, so that's the first thing. Before I can even tell them to vote for me, I got to say, hey, there's an actual election. But you're exactly right. People love to vote for the president who is off in DC and not going to have the kind of impact on our day-to-day lives as the people down on Bagby Street or the people down on Prairie and Commissioner's Court, because Houston should know this for sure, better than anybody else, right? When we talk about Hurricane Harvey and you want to talk about getting roads improved, you want to talk about the different things that impact us in the community. Sure, the federal government plays some role, but if you want to see immediate change, it's through the local elections that you do that. because those are the people that you're actually going to see about in the community, or at least you should be seeing them in the community. And if you're not seeing them around in the community, serving the constituency in which that elected them, then that's first red flag there. But these are the people that you can actually hold accountable, because these are local elections. And so you want to talk about road fix, you want to talk about your schools, you want to talk about funding because of Hurricane Harvey or the grid issues and things. These are all going to be locally impacted issues. And so that's why you got to know when these elections are. You need to know who is on the ballot. And one of the best ways to do that is to find a group that you identify with. And there are so many groups that I've had the pleasure of coming to interact with while on the campaign trail. There are groups based on neighborhoods where you may live in Houston, Harris County. There are groups based on interest. There are groups based on all types of things, party affiliation. But find a group that you identify with. And it could be something as simple as following them on social media, going to their meetings. Because of the pandemic, there's a lot of Zoom things going on right now. But they will keep you informed of what's happening. Candidates will go around and speak. And then a lot of times these clubs will do what's called a slate. They'll say, you know what, these are the people that we vetted. These are the people that we think you should consider to vote. And you can take that card with you to the ballot. So like Texas Coalition of Black Democrats, the Houston Black American Democrats, these are all just some examples of local organizations that people can use to go and find out, who they want to consider to vote, who they want to represent them. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about representing the people of Harris County. And again, the reason that's important is because they're trying to take away that very right. If you're keeping track of what's happened in Austin this last legislative session, that after all the success of the last election, now all of a sudden we want to change the rules of the game. We want to change the rules and they try to say make the elections more secure, but what it really is voter suppression, right? And so now all of a sudden you hear about more ballots being rejected, or you hear about applications being denied. You hear about a shortage in voter registration access, and you've never heard about that, a shortage in voter registration cards. But of course, it's because it's not unintentional. I'll say that. And so the way that you overcome that is by making sure that you're doing everything you can, that you're voting, and that you get out to the polls, and that you get out early to vote, which starts next week, by the way, that you get out early to vote. So that way you prevent any issues coming up and making sure your voice is heard.
I'm glad you said those things, and I don't think anybody else could have said it better. Guys, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Rich Living Morning Show on Raise the Praise 100 Houston, and my guest today is Mr. Jarrell Rogers, who is a candidate for Harris County Judge, Criminal Court at Law number 14. Now, how can we get involved with your campaign? There are people listening, and they say, I want to support, or send me a sign, a T-shirt. How can they get involved?
Well, you know what? Now is a great time to get involved, right? Because we are coming into the final stretches, Harris County. We are coming into the important days. They've all been important, but now is where it really meets the road. And so February 14th is when early voting starts. And so I need poll workers. And so I would love for you to help me at the polls, to pass out literature at the polls, to tell people to vote for me as they're heading in. There are even some paid opportunities available with that because of generous contributions and generous supporters that believe in my mission. I'm able to pay some people some positions. And so you can send me an email at info@jarrellforjudge.com. Just send me your info, and then I'll touch base with you, and we'll try to make something happen. That's one way. Of course, if nothing else, money. Campaigns are not cheap. They're not free. T-shirts aren't free. Campaign literature aren't free. And those poll workers, they get hungry. They're going to get thirsty. And I want to make sure I'm treating my poll workers right. And so all those things cost money. And so if you say, you know what, I can't be at the poll, the way my job is set up, I have to be at work. I understand that. Or maybe you don't even live in Harris County, but you still want to have your impact. Again, you can go to JarrellForJudge.com, JERELL, the number 4, the word judge.com. There's a button at the top that says donate. That is a great way in which you can help the campaign. And then so working at the polls, donating, and then nothing else. Give me a like, a follow on Instagram. That's free. Go to Jarrell for Judge on Facebook, Jarrell for Judge on Instagram. like a post, share a post, help me get the message out to everyone about my mission, about that I'm running for judge, and about this upcoming election, because it is going to be crucial.
Absolutely. And I'm loving the energy of all of the young, talented people that are moving towards politics and actually standing against some major players, some and challenging those seats and those offices. So guys, is scrolling right there at the bottom of the screen. If you're viewing us on social media or YouTube, JerellForJudge.com, JERELL for the number 4 judge.com, and you can connect with Mr. Rogers there and his campaign. I'm going to say this, maybe really help you get some people. College students,
Let them know. Let them know.
I made money during the campaign seasons. I promise you. I think I may have campaigned for Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson all my life. I think I was in elementary when she became our state representative in Dallas, and I was campaigning, getting those, those checks, and they would pay you in cash back then. Sometimes I don't know. I don't know if they can do that anymore. But listen, man, I'd round them up and say, "Hey, y'all, you can make you some weekend money here." So we are praying for your campaign, and we wish you all the best. And I want you guys in Harris County, that's Houston, Texas, and by the way, what are there any other cities besides Houston that fall in Harris County?
Yeah, so that's, I should have brought that up. So one question I always get asked is, Court 14, am I in your district? Look, if you live in Harris County, you are in my district. So we're talking Houston, we're talking Springs, Cypress, all these different Tomball, Webster, Baytown, Pasadena. I can go on and on. But if you live in Harris County, you can vote for me. I will be on your ballot. And so please, and you can go to Harris Votes. Harris Votes, I think it's .com, it might be .org. But go to harrisvotes.com. You can find a sample ballot. You can get polling locations. You can get polling hours, because I didn't say this earlier too, but early voting goes from February 14th all the way through the 25th. So make a plan. Make sure that you know what you're doing. Maybe even have a backup plan, because it rains a little bit in Houston now and then. It gets cold every now and then in Houston. And so have a plan, and take a friend. Take a friend with you. Bring them to the poll with you, especially those that might need the help more than others. And then February 14th through the 25th, that's early voting. Actual election day is March 1st, but you're not going to worry about that, because you will already have voted before March 1st. But if you haven't voted by March 1st, then make sure you vote March 1st, election day.
Absolutely, guys. Well, you've heard it right here on the Rich Living Morning Show. And thank you for tuning in and listening to this conversation. Attorney Jerell Rogers, thank you so much for joining us today. And you always have a friend with the Rich Living Morning Show. When you need us, just call. We'll be there.
Bishop, I appreciate the time. My first time, and hopefully not my last time. I just appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, when you get in office, I'll be calling you.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
All right. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Guys, keep listening to the Rich Living Morning Show right here on Raise the Praise 100 Houston. I'm restarting my theme song for some reason, but keep listening to us on the Rich Living Morning Show or Raise the Praise 100 Houston. I just kind of threw myself off sync there. All right, we're going back to great gospel music, and in the 9 o'clock hour, the phone lines will be open for Testimony Tuesday. Mother Birch already called in and said, "I'm waiting for Testimony Tuesday so I can call in and tell the good things God has done for me." Everybody's welcome. You'll dial in at 346-355-0100 and tell something good that has happened in your life.
Right here with Bishop Richard Harper. Keep it locked.